Chapter 41. 41. Fitness Equipment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 41. Fitness Equipment Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Tang Rui manipulated the drone in the sky for some time. However, he wondered how to describe it better. The drone's aircraft structure, combined with its propulsion, led to a slightly cumbersome operational feel, lacking the smoothness he desired. However, this observation didn't imply that the drone's maneuverability was subpar. It was just that his familiarity with jet engines, as he often worked with them, made him notice the difference. His personal drone could achieve supersonic speeds due to jet engines, which explained his perception. In reality, the drone he was testing was already quite proficient. After flying the drone for a while, Tang Rui activated the optical system and started taking photos from above. The results were promising. The images turned out well, although not on par with his own drone, they were fairly close. The distinctions mostly lay in the finer details. He was satisfied with the drone's overall performance, as he guided it to land. Subsequently, he closed his laptop, stood up, and addressed Zhang Jipeng. "Thank you, Senior. The performance exceeded my expectations. As long as you're content. Do you intend to take this prototype with you or leave it here temporarily?" Zhang Jipeng inquired, aware that accommodating a large drone might be a challenge for Tang Rui's small company. "In fact, this does pose a minor challenge, Senior. The factory building for my company is currently undergoing renovations and will take a few days to complete." "No problem. One have the space. Let's go, don't linger here. Come to my office." "Absolutely, I'm intrigued by your office's grandeur." The two departed from the basic control tower and returned to the office building. The drone was in capable hands with the staff handling its storage. After spending slightly over half an hour in Zhang Jipeng's office, Tang Rui took his leave. Although Zhang Jipeng had intended to invite him for dinner, Tang Rui declined, using the excuse of picking up his girlfriend. It wasn't exactly an excuse, though. During the past few days, he had been engrossed in working on the firefighting drone, with minimal communication with Li Shuyao. Consequently, he decided to take his time that day. His plan involved picking up Li Shuyao from work, enjoying dinner together, and possibly catching a movie. However, before fetching Li Shuyao, a visit to the city bureau was on his agenda. The prototype drone was ready, and it was time to discuss the order with the bureau chief, following appropriate procedures even if it was an internal arrangement. Upon reaching the city bureau, Tang Rui contacted the bureau chief's secretary, recognizing the need to avoid impulsive behavior. The secretary informed him that the bureau chief was currently engaged in a meeting at the provincial office, rendering Tang Rui's trip fruitless. Nevertheless, the secretary would relay his matter to the bureau chief. Departing from the city bureau, Tang Rui headed to the Internet Monitoring Bureau, where he messaged Li Shuyao. "I'm outside your workplace. We can have dinner later." Li Shuyao, who had been idling in her office, received his message with surprise. What prompted this change? Was Tang Rui, the usually straightforward person, experiencing a shift in attitude? Aware that she would soon finish work and was being invited to dinner, Li Shuyao couldn't help but wonder. Since agreeing to Tang Rui's proposal the last time, he hadn't brought up the idea of going out or sharing a meal for a full 5 days. She had given up on the notion. Unexpectedly, he was suggesting it now. "Okay, I'll be off in around 20 minutes. Just a short wait." After replying, Li Shuyao hastened to freshen up and change her attire. Half an hour later, she exited her workplace. "Has your firefighting drone been completed?" As soon as she stepped into the car, Li Shuyao inquired directly. "Not yet." "Why do you ask?" Tang Rui was puzzled. "No specific reason, just curious." "I see. What type of cuisine would you prefer tonight?" "I'm fine with anything, not picky. How about indulging in a delicious big plate of chicken?" I know a place that serves exceptional ones, sure. Tang Rui's typical straightforwardness surfaced again, picking the first thing that came to his mind. Nonetheless, the big plate of chicken at that particular restaurant was, indeed, delectable. An hour later, leaning back in her chair, Li Shuyao contemplated the extra exercise she would need to undertake that night to offset the surplus calories from their dinner. I'll need to work out for an extra half-hour tonight. I ate more than I should have. You exercise every day. Tang Rui was genuinely unaware. I wouldn't consume this much if I weren't exercising. No wonder. Tang Rui chuckled, realizing that Li Shuyao's excellent physique was not accidental. Pondering his own habits, he acknowledged that his exercise regimen had been inconsistent since high school. University life scarcely involved any exercise, leading to the vanishing of his abs and muscles, which had, more or less, merged into one. No, he had to commit to exercising. What's on your mind? Observing Tang Rui's changing expressions, Li Shuyao was uncertain about his thoughts. I'm thinking of starting to exercise. Exercising. That's great. Being engrossed in research at home might have affected your health. Devoting an hour daily to exercise would benefit your overall well-being. Li Shuyao's enthusiasm for Tang Rui's exercise inclination was evident. She wasn't one to set high expectations for others. Even if Tang Rui didn't wish to work out, she wouldn't press the matter. However, his willingness pleased her. I'm contemplating using a massage chair for exercise, those that offer full-body massages. Li Shuyao rolled her eyes, taken aback by this notion. Quite an inventive thought. If massages could replace workouts, who would engage in exercise? Yet, she found a way to involve Tang Rui in physical activity. Getting up, she moved beside him and whispered in his ear, "Would you like to exercise with me? You're in for a treat." Tang Rui took a deep breath, trying to absorb her captivating voice. Her ideas were indeed distinct. Tang Rui instinctively nodded in agreement. Upon seeing his acquiescence, Li Shuyao promptly guided him to purchase exercise equipment. She wanted to eliminate any excuses and ensure a commitment. That evening, upon returning home, Tang Rui looked at the two sizable boxes before him, somewhat bewildered. Chapter 42. 42, Pain and Happiness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 42. Pain and Happiness. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Tang Rui exerted significant effort to drag the two hefty boxes into the living room before proceeding to open one of the boxes, revealing a sit-up fitness machine inside. Previously, the salesperson who specialized in fitness equipment had inquired about which body areas Tang Rui aimed to target during his workout. Tang Rui promptly responded, expressing his desire to focus on enhancing the strength of his waist and abdomen. And then came the suggestion. The other party suggested this particular sit-up fitness machine. Upon unpacking the box, he took out all the components. To his surprise, the machine was not pre-assembled, instead, it had been disassembled into panels and parts, requiring him to assemble it himself. Fortunately, the assembly process turned out to be quite straightforward. Nonetheless, Tang Rui paid little heed to the complexity of assembly. A new idea had taken root in his mind. He pondered whether the fitness equipment he put together would feature a system interface. From a logical standpoint, it seemed likely. After all, he had previously assembled items he had purchased. This fitness equipment, too, required his assembly skills. Other than the variance in technical complexity, there was essentially no difference between them. Tang Rui skipped the instruction manual altogether and immediately delved into assembling. It took him 10 minutes to complete the assembly of the sit-up machine. Just then, a familiar light flashed. A system interface materialized. Item. Sit-up fitness machine, experience. 0/80, origin point. 11.15, Gazing at the data displayed on the system panel, Tang Rui noted that assembling this fitness equipment had awarded him 0.05 origin points. Given the relatively undemanding nature of the assembly process, he found the number of origin points somewhat excessive. It was comparable to folding a paper airplane, if he were to draw a comparison. Strikingly, the number of origin points he received was 5 times that of a paper airplane's assembly. However, this wasn't the primary concern. What truly mattered was that the system panel had appraised the assembly of this fitness equipment as efficacious. Consequently, Tang Rui was presented with a wider array of choices. He proceeded to transport the assembled sit-up machine to the gym area and began unboxing the other piece of equipment. The upcoming task was assembling the treadmill. Li Shuyao had recommended he acquire this treadmill, asserting the necessity of incorporating both cardio and oxygen levels into his workout routine. He wasn't exactly privy to the specifics, yet he understood that when he jogged, Li Shuyao would initiate a video call, running alongside him. This camaraderie spurred him on. Surprisingly, the treadmill's assembly proved even simpler than that of the sit-up machine. He extended the frame, placed the base upon it, secured it with a latch, and mounted the display screen. Curiously, though, where was the system interface? Tang Rui waited patiently, yet the system panel remained conspicuously absent. Both machines had been assembled, but the treadmill seemed devoid of a system panel. Was there some sort of bias against the treadmill? Tang Rui cocked an eyebrow, regarding the treadmill with a touch of disdain. Upon consideration, his conclusion made sense. The system likely didn't recognize this manner of assembly. Connecting the treadmill was tantamount to plugging a USB cable into a charging port. Acknowledging this as valid system progress would indeed verge on the absurd. It appeared he would have to construct a fresh treadmill tomorrow. A treadmill bereft of an upgrade function held no appeal in his eyes. A sudden buzz signaled the commencement of his phone's vibration. Retrieving his phone, he discovered a video call from Li Shuyao. Sans adieu, he accepted the call. Li Shuyao appeared on the screen, garbed in her gym attire. "Have you assembled the equipment?" she inquired. "Indeed, everything is set up," Tang Rui responded as he turned his phone to showcase the 2 newly assembled pieces of equipment. "In that case, go change into your workout clothes." "Sure, I'll be right back." Tang Rui promptly dismissed the treadmill quandary, hurrying to switch his attire. Yes, he held a deep passion for sports. And yet, it dawned on him that he lacked proper sportswear. For his present needs, a basketball jersey seemed the most suitable choice. Oh well, it would have to suffice for now. Donning his changed clothes and sneakers, he re-entered the gym area. "You're wearing basketball shoes," Li Shuyao remarked, glancing at his footwear with a hint of speechlessness. "Well, yes, basketball shoes," Tang Rui responded, unfazed. He remembered wearing the same type of shoes for morning runs during high school. The distinction is substantial. For a brief period, it's fine, but prolonged usage can adversely affect your feet and knee joints. Never mind, let's call it a day. I'll get you a pair of proper running shoes tomorrow. Sure thing. Let's focus on the run for now. We can tackle the equipment issue later. Tang Rui, hearing about potential bodily repercussions, resolved to craft his own pair of running shoes the next day. "Before you start running, perform some warm-up exercises." "Understood." Li Shuyao guided him through a set of warm-up routines. Perhaps a tad too enthusiastic, Tang Rui concluded his warm-up before he had even begun the actual workout. He hadn't even initiated the run when his smart bracelet buzzed, indicating his heightened heart rate and increased blood circulation. Under such circumstances, it was natural for him to feel warm. As he mounted the treadmill and commenced running, he adjusted the camera for optimal visibility. This arrangement ensured Li Shuyao could only see his upper body. "Maintain your breathing rhythm and synchronize your arm movements. Yes, just like that, Li Shuyao provided guidance as they both jogged. Tang Rui absorbed the instructions intently, his gaze locked onto the phone screen. His level of concentration rivaled his high school years. After 10 minutes elapsed, his body's endurance hit its limit. No more. I can't continue running, Tang Rui panted, the exhaustion evident in his tone. His legs felt like they were encased in lead, devoid of any strength. Alright, take a break. Don't sit down, and avoid drinking water. Keep moving around the room slowly. I get it. I'm not completely oblivious, Tang Rui responded, his breaths labored. 10 minutes later, following a well-rested pause, Li Shuyao directed him to engage in abdominal exercises. Can we postpone this for tomorrow? No, your legs are still weak. However, your waist and abdomen are unaffected. It won't hinder your sit-ups. Alright, 1 foot 11 inches, give it a shot. Reluctant to appear too feeble, Tang Rui reluctantly positioned himself on the sit-up machine. Let's begin with sets of 10. Ready, and go. Li Shuyao commenced the routine, with Tang Rui matching her pace in his sit-up movements. Though he strained to engage his waist and abdomen, he didn't lie down immediately after each repetition. Instead, he glanced at the system interface. Item. Sit-up fitness machine, experience. 1/80th, origin point. 11.15, clicking his tongue in mild disappointment, Tang Rui noticed that each sit-up contributed only 1 experience point. His prior perception of experience points being meager seemed to hold merit, they were indeed quite substantial. For him to level up the equipment, he would need to complete 80 sit-ups. But for now, he decided to press on. With determination, Tang Rui forced himself through consecutive sit-ups, with the system experience points incrementing with each repetition. The rewarding feedback system proved motivating. Unbeknownst to him, the phone's screen featured captivating scenery. To keep pace with Li Shuyao, Tang Rui persevered despite the exertion. After all, as he ascended, Li Shuyao descended. For synchronization's sake, he braved the strain. Amidst the mixed sensations of struggle and satisfaction, he completed a set of sit-ups. Take a breather, regulate your breath. Next up, push-ups. I'd rather continue with sit-ups. My waist doesn't feel strained yet. Tang Rui shook his head, his determination evident. Alright, we'll save that for later. Li Shuyao cast him an amused glance, a subtle smile dancing at the corners of her lips. She didn't challenge his assertion. Chapter 43. 43, Complete Enhancement, Attribute Pane appears. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 43. Complete Enhancement, Attribute Pane appears. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Hey, don't forget to schedule a massage later. If you're not up for it, you could always head to a regular massage shop. Li Shuyao glanced at the screen, her gaze fixed on Tang Rui, who lay sprawled out on the floor like a limp fish. She was at a loss for words. This was his first attempt at working out. Normally, a bit of exercise and a variety of routines should have sufficed. However, something seemed off, and he ended up doing sit-ups. More than 6 sets of 63 sit-ups, to be exact. And now, this was the result. Alright, I hear you. Tang Rui remained on the floor, not in the mood to budge. He'd just done 63 sit-ups. His stomach was throbbing painfully. But he couldn't muster any strength. Don't linger on the floor too long. You might catch a cold. You could lie down on the sofa. Sure thing, I'll do that later. Take care of yourself then. 1 foot 11 inches, head for a shower. Bye. The video call ended. Tang Rui turned his head, staring up at the ceiling. He was utterly exhausted. It felt like his body had betrayed him. Only 63 sit-ups, and he felt like this. Back in the day, during the PE exam, he breezed through 45 sit-ups in a minute. No sweat. It was a walk in the park. And now, in just a few years, his body had deteriorated to this extent. He'd decided to start working out. Not for any other reason. Purely for his own health's sake. He couldn't afford to be crippled at his age. That would be a disaster. He rested on the floor for over 20 minutes, letting his heartbeat and breathing return to normal, before finally getting up. After a drink of water, he headed to his workshop. The idea of getting a massage outside didn't appeal to him. No real reason. Who really went to fancy massage parlors anyway? Besides, given his condition, even the best massage wouldn't do much good. No matter how much pressure they applied. Lactic acid in his muscles wouldn't dissipate fully. Tomorrow morning, he'd be screaming in agony, feeling as if 1,000 knives were slicing through him. So, at this point, the only thing that could help him was the system interface. From his toolbox, he retrieved a battery, a brushless motor, an eccentric wheel, a connecting rod, and a few other components. He immersed himself in building something, a device that could easily be misunderstood at first glance. A fascia gun. When he first saw this gadget, he'd been equally surprised. He'd thought it was some newfangled tech invented by a pampered player. A prop for movies, doubling as a massage tool. Later, he realized. He was the one who had been mistaken. The fascia gun was surprisingly simple in structure. Anyone with the parts and hands could assemble one. Tang Rui spent a mere 10 minutes crafting this basic contraption. Though the design was far from polished. Lacking the right components, he wrapped it in plastic. But that didn't matter to him. He intended to use the system interface to fortify it anyway. Item. Fascia gun, experience. 0/150, origin point. 1.25, creating the fascia gun would net him an additional 0.1 origin points, akin to the aircraft model. To alleviate the ache in his body, he strengthened it without a second thought. Reinforced shell, 1 origin point. Enhanced accessories, 1 point. Reinforced ball, 1 origin point. After these enhancements, the fascia gun underwent a radical transformation. From a rudimentary knockoff to a state-of-the-art marvel of technology. Even the name changed under the system's influence. Item. Vibrating physiotherapy instrument, experience. 0/350, origin. 8.25, Tang Rui examined the system panel data, gritted his teeth, and proceeded to enhance it further. After all, this was a one-shot strengthening device, and its efficacy was wanting. Special motor enhancement, 1 origin point. Special battery boost, 1 origin point, special transmission upgrade, 1 origin point. He fortified every hardware component directly. With only 3 of them, the cost was minimal. A blue light flickered. Tang Rui shifted his gaze back to the system panel, and a surprising addition caught his eye. Item. Vibrating physiotherapy instrument, experience. 0/1300, enhancement. Shell, accessory, special, ball head, attribute. Shock wave power increased by 150%, origin. 5.25, the newfound attributes left him taken aback. This was a first. In the past, he'd enhanced other equipment, but he'd never glimpsed the attribute window. He mulled it over for a while. A realization struck him. His previous enhancements had focused on individual components. This time, though, he'd strengthened the entire fascia gun. Every special part of the accessories had been enhanced. And with this, the puzzle fell into place. Enhancing a particular type of equipment unlocked its attribute bar. Upgrading amplified the equipment's traits. Strengthening boosted its attributes. Fascinating. Tang Rui studied the origin points on the system panel, steeled himself, and subjected the ball head to a thorough special enhancement. Special reinforced silica mat, 1 origin point, special reinforced sleeve, 1 origin point. Special motor overhaul, 1 origin point. A green light gleamed. Enhancement complete. The ball head underwent a drastic metamorphosis. But Tang Rui wasn't fixated on the appearance. He craved the newly acquired attributes. Item. Vibrating physiotherapy instrument, experience. 0/1800, enhancement. Shell, accessory, special, ball head, special, attribute. Shock wave power increased by 150%, effective amplitude raised by 150%, origin point. 2.25, the freshly added attributes pleased Tang Rui. The effective amplitude was a significant trait. Much like APM, where even reaching 300 didn't cut it. Done. Enhancement ceased due to a shortage of origin points. Tang Rui picked up the instrument and began massaging his thighs. Buzz. A gentle hum filled the air. Tang Rui, though, was wide-eyed, experiencing a blend of sourness and chilliness. The sour sensation swiftly faded, replaced by numbness. Less than 5 seconds. The numbness vanished. In its place settled a comforting, relaxing sensation. Not a bad investment. For the outcome, the origin points were well spent. Compared to everything else, health was paramount. The instrument worked wonders. He felt like he'd upgraded his fitness gear. What a pity that origin points were scarce. Previously, they'd meant little to him. Now, observing his stats, he realized their true value. Gaining them was quite the chore, however. Only self-made items earned origin points. But crafting had criteria to meet, like the treadmill from before. As Tang Rui massaged his legs and abdomen, his mind churned, contemplating how to amass a substantial number of origin points. Chapter 44. 44, High-efficiency subconscious learning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 44. High-efficiency subconscious learning equipment plus 5.1 translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The following day, Tang Rui awoke, shedding his subconscious learning device and rising from bed with a luxurious stretch, lazily extending his body. He relished the sensation of vitality coursing through him. Not a trace of soreness lingered. It appears that my workout regimen is truly yielding results. Experimenting with his mobility, Tang Rui found immense satisfaction in the outcomes of his fitness routine. Even more gratifying was the remarkable performance of the upgraded fascia gun, which had delivered exceptional results. As per his routine, he instinctively reached for his phone, only to discover that the experience points on the subconscious learning device's system panel had reached their limit. Without hesitation, Tang Rui pressed the upgrade button. A fleeting azure light swept by. Upgrade complete. Item. Efficient subconscious learning device plus 5, experience. 4115/50,000, enhancements. Peripheral, hardware, software, attributes. Thought acceleration, memory enhancement, origin points. 2.25, the 5th level subconscious learning device now boasted an added attribute. Memory enhancement. Tang Rui intuitively comprehended the significance of this enhancement. With this attribute in place, his learning efficiency would ascend to new heights. Immensely pragmatic. Nonetheless, the impending challenge involved the escalating experience requirement for the upcoming upgrade. However, he welcomed this gradual approach. Learning was an evolution, a culmination of persistent endeavors over time. Resettling the learning device, Tang Rui readied himself for the day, proceeding to freshen up before setting out for breakfast. The villa's ambience was delightful. Ample space encompassed the residence. A solitary drawback was its distance from the breakfast establishment. Regrettably, no eatery existed at the villa's entrance. For a morning meal, a drive was obligatory, constituting a minor inconvenience. As he arrived at the breakfast venue, poised to place his order, the bureau chief's secretary contacted him, imparting information regarding a bidding meeting scheduled for Monday at the municipal office. His attendance was imperative, and he was entrusted with preparing the bid proposal in advance, encompassing drone performance metrics and corresponding prices. Promptly, Tang Rui affirmed his readiness, assuring them that all necessary materials were at his disposal, pledging to facilitate the leadership's requirements, adhering to procedural guidelines. Yet, genuine substance was paramount, he refrained from fabricating mere illusions. Upon concluding the conversation, Tang Rui opted for additional tea eggs as a treat for breakfast. An undeniable hunger had besieged him, a consequence of his strenuous workout session. In truth, his appetite had persisted since the previous night. Nevertheless, succumbing to nocturnal snacks was beyond consideration. Such indulgence could pave the path to diabetes. He recalled a relative's unfortunate trajectory down that path. Nightly snacks, steadfastly consumed around 10 in the evening, precipitated sleep deprivation if foregone. A year of this regimen culminated in daily medication and the cessation of nocturnal snacking, even evading high-sugar foods, a formidable struggle. Thus, he chose to abstain from late-night snacks, resorting to early slumber if hunger emerged. Post-breakfast, Tang Rui resumed crafting firefighting drones. He had already assembled 10, yet 2 complete squadrons necessitated a minimum of 12. Consequently, the day's goal entailed the completion of 2 additional drones. By 2 p.m., he had successfully constructed the pair of firefighting drones. Retiring his tools, he descended to the basement. The prior owner had undertaken rudimentary renovations in the basement, imparting tiled flooring and wall finishes. Evidence indicated the area's past role as a gym and entertainment space, its components since removed. Tang Rui envisioned relocating his workshop to the basement, as the upstairs quarters proved insufficient for specific tasks. Furthermore, he envisaged the acquisition of further equipment, which would render the upper area even more cramped. Install a laser sintering 3D printer here. Tang Rui traversed the space, offering instructions to himself after an appraisal of the surroundings. Allocate space for a small vacuum arc furnace. Designate this zone for an expansive workbench, replete with polishing and dust elimination functionalities. Systematically, he navigated the basement, dictating equipment placements and provisions. His present fiscal means enabled the procurement of previously unattainable items. UV curing apparatus, handheld multifunctional 3D scanners, titanium alloy soldering furnaces, all were within reach. Moreover, tracks on the floor would facilitate multiple industrial-grade, multifunctional robotic arms, in conjunction with high-precision industrial welding robots. Tang Rui's aspiration was straightforward, transforming the basement into a space reminiscent of Iron Man's domain. Thus, procured devices were mandated to feature disassemblable construction, or at the very least, accommodate modifications. A prerequisite stipulated the devices must possess system panels and be upgradable. After a comprehensive appraisal of the basement's potential, Tang Rui, now equipped with a clear plan, ascended to the living room. Celia, initiate a web page and access the industrial equipment procurement platform. Certainly. Reclined upon the couch, Tang Rui perused the displayed web page. His equipment acquisition criteria were forthright. Domestic alternatives took precedence, with self-construction serving as the fallback. Potential avenues for selling his technology to domestic manufacturers post-upgrades rendered foreign equipment less appealing, a compromise in opportunities. However, the domestic industrial equipment landscape had progressed significantly, albeit slightly trailing foreign high-end counterparts in terms of performance and precision. Were these disparities problematic? For most, they would pose considerable concern. Yet, for Tang Rui, these constraints were insignificant. Functionality was paramount. Guided by Celia, he selected equipment from manufacturers renowned for their cost-effectiveness, positive user feedback, and research and development investments. Orders were placed, and the wait for delivery commenced. While smaller items would rely on conventional logistics, larger counterparts included delivery services and on-site installation and debugging assistance from engineers. Recumbent on the couch, Tang Rui recognized the temporal void before him. The police drone bidding matter could be delegated to a professional company skilled in bid document preparation, minimizing costs. Factory building construction remained ongoing, meticulously supervised by the proprietor. Quality assessment would prove pertinent in the later stages. Employee recruitment loomed on the horizon, demanding attention in the ensuing week. Firefighting drones awaited their instrumental counterparts. However, without the requisite apparatus and equipment, tangible progress was hindered. Tang Rui grappled with idleness, prompting a sudden recollection. The design of the firefighting drone launch system lingered unresolved. Unassisted takeoff and the absence of landing gear necessitated strategic intervention. Simplicity was an option, a rubber band. Tethered track akin to launching a crossbow bolt. Yet, this approach appeared rudimentary and limiting, accommodating only one drone at a time. Tang Rui's vision centered on a grander endeavor, an apparatus reminiscent of a rocket launcher, capable of dispatching 12 firefighting drones concurrently. Although technically unchallenging, this launcher posed complex construction challenges, the dozen tubes themselves requiring meticulous craftsmanship. Chapter 45. 45. Launching the Fighting Drone. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 45. Launching the Fighting Drone Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. However, regardless of the circumstances, this task had to be undertaken. Neglecting it would impede the flight of the firefighting drones. Tang Rui picked up the aluminum alloy plate and immediately set to work. Following several days of practice, his welding technique had notably advanced. Although he had yet to master the intricacies of achieving a fish scale effect, at the very least, he was no longer creating perforations. The sealed portions of the welds were also considerably improved. Completion of the welding for the 12 pipes was achieved. Subsequently, he employed a grinding wheel to commence the polishing process. Upon completion of this task, he affixed the bottom piece with the ejector mechanism. Finally, the aluminum alloy plate was employed to bind the 12 pipes together. Tang Rui engineered a rectangular launcher, arranging the 12 pipes into 3 rows, each containing 4 launch tubes. Having concluded these tasks, he devoted his attention to crafting a base for the launcher, incorporating a gimbal and a motor. This motor would facilitate adjustments to the launcher's orientation and tilt angle. Upon the launcher's culmination, the outside world had transformed into darkness. While the process might appear straightforward in theory, the actual implementation proved somewhat convoluted. Consulting his phone for the time, Tang Rui discovered that it was nearing 7 o'clock. Consequently, his feeling of hunger could be attributed to the fact that dinner time had passed. After laboring diligently, the prospect of dining out lost its allure. Accordingly, he placed an order for takeout. "Have you finished your meal?" This query emanated from Li Shuyao, who had messaged him roughly 15 minutes prior. "Not yet. I've just wrapped up my tasks. I've ordered takeout, and it should arrive in approximately 15 minutes. Subsequent to finalizing his takeout order, Tang Rui responded to Li Shuyao. Before Li Shuyao could respond, Tang Rui perused his social media feed, contemplating the recent posts shared by his acquaintances. Upon opening his feed, he chanced upon a new entry. "Looking for quick money. Making ideas. Desperately need cash." This particular post was authored by a senior student affiliated with the China Electronics Technology Group. Evidently, financial constraints were affecting him. Notwithstanding a substantial income, the exorbitant housing costs presented an ongoing challenge. Tang Rui appended his perspective. Printing money is a fast route to financial gain. Promptly, someone approved of his viewpoint. Swiftly thereafter, the senior student responded, "Junior, aren't you aware that counterfeiting money is illegal?" Tang Rui rejoined, "Senior, you can print genuine currency." The senior student conceded, "You make a valid point. However, the obstacle is my lack of an intaglio printing press." Tang Rui interjected, "I can procure one." "Senior, care to embark on a lucrative venture together?" The senior student was taken aback, "Really? I'll go source some acid-free paper then." Zhou Tao chimed in, "Count me in. I'll get color-changing ink." The senior student posed a question, "And who will craft the printing plate?" Zhou Tao replied, "I have a friend at the Central Academy of Fine Arts, he can design one." Tang Rui affirmed, "Excellent, let's collaborate and earn a substantial income." Yet, a brief intermission occurred, as the senior student attended to a knock on his door to receive a package. Following the senior student's disappearance, Tang Rui resumed scrolling through his social media updates. At first glance, the interaction seemed light-hearted. Nevertheless, he genuinely possessed the means to acquire an intaglio printing press. Constructing one from scratch and subsequently enhancing it via system upgrades. The resultant print quality would assuredly outclass the output of the U.S. Federal Reserve. Interested in meeting up for a drink? Nan Street food stalls. Zhou Tao reached out with a message. Can't make it. I have other commitments tonight. Tang Rui responded promptly. A playful jest, considering he had plans to engage in a workout later. The idea of patronizing a food stall held no appeal. What's the matter? You seem off. Dad's immersed in drone design, leaving no room for leisure. Drone design. Why not say he's crafting a spaceship? I get it, am I going to be a grandfather? Get lost, you rascal. Following a brief exchange with Zhou Tao, the delivery arrived at his door. A serving of braised beef atop rice. Notably, beef was in short supply, whereas potatoes were ample. Despite this, the flavor was agreeable, and the portion was sufficient to sate his appetite. Upon concluding his meal, over half an hour transpired. Tang Rui changed into his workout attire, retrieved his phone, and dispatched a video message to Li Shuyao. Why haven't you changed yet? Giving up on the workout? Working out? Can you even manage it? Li Shuyao was taken aback. After all, the previous night, Tang Rui was as worn out as a limp fish. Realistically, he should have refrained from exercising today, let alone exerting himself strenuously. He should be gradually convalescing, refraining from exertion. Yet, he had just sent her a video, suggesting a shared workout. What do you mean, can't I? Can't men decline? Hurry up and change. I'm waiting for you. Tang Rui's urging prompted Li Shuyao to change her attire. Observing Tang Rui's earnest demeanor, Li Shuyao's expression shifted subtly, prompting her to return to her room to change. Several minutes later, Li Shuyao, donning her workout ensemble, appeared on screen. Tang Rui was momentarily taken aback. Contrary to expectation, she wasn't wearing the snug workout attire, she sported a loose-fitting sports tank top instead. The three-dimensional contours of her physique became immediately apparent. Let's begin with warm-up exercises. Observing Tang Rui's gaze, Li Shuyao's cheeks tinged with a slight blush. Although she had an undergarment on, the loose tank top still emanated a sense of fierceness. After completing their warm-up exercises, they proceeded to treadmills and commenced jogging. Li Shuyao kept a watchful eye on Tang Rui. She presumed he was struggling, possibly enduring discomfort. However, after a while, she began to sense something was amiss. Tang Rui's expression remained constant. There was no indication that he was suppressing pain while jogging. Not even a skilled actor could convincingly hide physical discomfort while running. Such sensations were impossible to conceal. How are you managing this? What do you mean? Aren't your muscles hurting? They were quite sore last night, but I used a massage gun for a while, and now I'm fine. Li Shuyao absorbed his response without further inquiry. After all, each individual's constitution was distinct. Tang Rui might naturally possess a rapid recovery rate. Following an hour of exercise, they finally concluded their workout and terminated their video call. After lying on the bed for a brief respite, Tang Rui rose to take a shower. Today felt significantly better than yesterday. Despite still feeling fatigued, these TikTok videos had lost their appeal. After all, TikTok imposed certain content restrictions. But videos shared on WeChat were not bound by such restrictions. For instance, Li Shuyao's workout video would never pass TikTok standards, but it could easily be shared on WeChat. This notion struck Tang Rui. Even if he didn't venture outside, he could still indulge in drone piloting. To be precise, firefighting drone piloting. These drones didn't require runways. As long as there were no obstructions, they could take off anywhere. Tang Rui glanced at the sizable balcony outside. 12 square meters, ample space for a launch pad. With this idea in mind, he retrieved the drone launcher and moved it to the second-floor balcony. He inserted the firefighting drones one by one into the launch tubes. Once he completed these tasks, he fetched his laptop, launched the drone control program, adjusted the launcher's orientation and tilt angle, and then pressed the launch button. Launch. Swoosh. The 12 launch tubes on the left commenced firing, one after another from the top to the bottom of the first column. Then the third column, from top to bottom. Next came the second and fourth columns. In mere seconds, all 12 firefighting drones were airborne. Chapter 46. 46, A Bedsheet Dragnet. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 46. A Bedsheet Dragnet Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation 30 meters above the ground. 12 firefighting drones, like ghosts, silently hovered. The advantage of propellers is that they leave no exhaust trail, and their noise is low. On this cloudy night. Apart from night vision goggles, the naked eye can't see a thing. Even if you can hear the sound. It's difficult to locate the drones. Tang Rui moved the mouse and marked a point on the map. Then he selected the drones and clicked on the stealth infiltration mode. Woo. After receiving the command, the electro-optical systems of the 12 firefighting drones started working. Ground scanning system. Laser ranging system. Optical detection system. Infrared detection system. These devices on different drones were activated simultaneously. The data obtained, shared and distributed through a multi-drone coordinated intelligent control program, instantly calculated the path to the target. The 12 firefighting drones hovering in the air changed their flight trajectories simultaneously. These 12 drones adjusted their directions, forming two groups in a staggered formation, descending in height. Then, the two groups of drones flew toward the target, one after the other. Tang Rui clasped his hands and quietly watched the screen. He didn't need to control these firefighting drones. Just set the target. Choose the flight mode or attack mode. The system automatically calculates the flight path. No manual operation was required. Otherwise, even if he had fast reflexes, he couldn't control 12 drones alone. During the flight, when these firefighting drones detected people and obstacles ahead, they adjusted their flight paths to avoid them. Tang Rui watched as the flight trajectory traced a path and nodded in satisfaction. The coordination problem of multiple drones had always been a big issue. The enhanced multi-drone coordinated intelligent program on the system panel not only solved the problems of data transmission, sharing, and task allocation, but also addressed the issue of coordination. When avoiding obstacles on the road, the 12 drones adjusted their directions and slowed down simultaneously. At their closest points, there was only a 20 centimeter gap between the two drones. This kind of coordination couldn't be achieved through manual operation. In no time, the 12 firefighting drones successfully maneuvered through various obstacles and flew over the target, then began hovering at low altitude. Tang Rui reached out and marked a point at the villa's location. This time, he selected the annihilation mode. Upon giving the command, the 12 firefighting drones simultaneously ascended. After reaching an altitude of 100 meters, they headed towards the villa while scanning and searching for the target. Vehicles and pedestrians on the road were all marked. At this point, as long as Tang Rui clicked the screen to confirm the annihilation command, the drones would initiate the attack. However, he wouldn't click it. So, during the flight, all the marked targets remained on the map. This was a function of the reconnaissance mode. But he embedded some of those instructions into the annihilation mode. For example, sometimes the target might not be completely annihilated, but there weren't enough drones left. In such cases, marking the enemy allowed for direct attacks on those targets during the next assault. Soon, the 12 firefighting drones returned to the airspace above the villa, hovering at low altitude, waiting for commands. There weren't any more commands. All systems were normal, and all functions were functioning properly. As for the actual firefighting effect, he couldn't test it. So, this test flight ended. Landing. At that moment, Tang Rui realized he hadn't arranged landing nets. Glancing at the screen's cruising time, there was just over 20 minutes left. He hurriedly got up, tore the bedsheet off the bed and rushed to the yard. There, he fetched 4 poles and tied them to the corners of the bedsheet. After securing them, he inserted the poles into the ground. Once he was sure it was fine, he returned to the room, controlled the firefighting drones to fly over his villa, marked the bedsheet in the yard, and then clicked the landing command. The 12 drones circled the villa twice, scanning the surrounding terrain and obstacles, then adjusted their flight paths. One firefighting drone plummeted from the sky in a dive, arriving at the villa's entrance and pulling up just in time. Speed was counteracted by gravity and resistance. At the same time, the propellers stopped. Finally, this firefighting drone dropped from over 3 meters, executing a U-turn in mid-air before accurately landing on the bedsheet. After this firefighting drone landed, the second one started repeating the same maneuver. During this time, Tang Rui was beside the bedsheet, quickly removing the drones as they landed. After a while, when the final firefighting drone accurately landed on the bedsheet, he breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. The initial landings were precise. But during the third last one, it almost hit the ground. It startled Tang Rui. Aluminum alloy wasn't that durable. Falling from over 3 meters, it wouldn't turn into dust, but it would definitely be damaged. He glanced at the drone system panel. It was 230 experience points away from an upgrade. One more flight and it would likely level up. However, he wasn't pursuing upgrades. Whether it leveled up or not, it didn't matter much. At most, it would look better. The equipment remained the same, he couldn't enhance it. He went upstairs, took the transmitter from the balcony, inserted all the firefighting drones into the launching tube, and began charging. Then he dismantled the bedsheet. It was rendered useless. Several places had been scratched by the metallic protrusions on the drone. A spin in the washing machine would certainly tear it apart. However, it could be repurposed as a landing net for the firefighting drones. After a busy period, with everything tidied up, he returned to his room, put on the subconscious learning device, and lay on the bed to sleep. In his dreams, theoretical knowledge of various rocket engines flowed into his mind. He had already finished studying mechanical design and circuitry textbooks. He had considered studying some microelectronics-related knowledge but he eventually gave up. Although he had a golden finger, he couldn't cross into a different field to study chips. Others wouldn't believe it. Even if he studied tanks, exoskeletons, or even rockets and spacecraft, it would be more credible than dabbling in chips. So, lithography machines and such were off-limits, not unless he developed interstellar travel. At that point, if domestically made lithography machines still fell short, he could step in. First, he needed to understand the relevant knowledge in his field, and then consider other things. Rocket engines were something he had to comprehend. It wasn't for creating firefighting incendiary devices. Those had already been developed and sold to the wealthy. It needed to have a range of 300 kilometers and a non-negotiable payload. Even after reducing the payload, there was no warranty in after-sales service, not to mention the glaring range error of 1,700 kilometers. Tang Rui was learning this to work on true fighter jets, and to directly build cyclically activated engines. Such engines were true black tech stuff. Chapter 47. 47, Enterprise Level Comprehension. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 47. Enterprise Level Comprehension Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Boss, we assure you that all materials will be ready by tomorrow noon. Can't it be tonight? Boss, it's not that it can't be done tonight, but it's rushed. And your bid, we haven't done this kind before, so that's why it's taking a bit longer. But there's absolutely no problem. Alright, have the materials prepared by tomorrow noon. Sure, thank you, boss. Tang Rui paid and left the service company. He didn't need to worry about the bidding materials anymore. For the drone bidding, qualifications weren't required. Even if they were, the service company could help obtain them. After all, the projects they undertook were all in the field of construction, the waters weren't too deep there. A simple drone bidding wouldn't stump them. Leaving the place, Tang Rui drove to Julien Company. He wasn't planning to use any headhunting companies for recruiting, he didn't need to. He directly went to Julien. He wanted them to assist in the recruitment process. It wouldn't cost much either. Payment would be based on the number of people recruited. Just state the requirements, and they would gather the personnel for you. No need for advertisements. They would extract data from their database, filter candidates according to your requirements, and make the necessary calls. Quickly, Tang Rui arrived at Julien Company. Hearing that he was there for business, the staff were also pleased. Customers like him were their favorites. I wonder, sir, what specific requirements do you have? The requirements are simple. A graduate degree, 1 or 2 years of laboratory experience, and a solid foundation. Tang Rui presented his requirements. After hearing them, they found it a bit peculiar. Did these requirements really warrant paying a fee? You could just post an advertisement online. However many people you needed, you'd get. Alright, are these the only criteria? No other implicit requirements? Well, there's one thing. It's best if they're the kind who've faced challenges in society. Upon hearing this requirement, the receptionists were taken aback. As a company dealing with human resources, they had seen all sorts of clients. Various absurd demands. Like age, height, appearance, measurements, purity, and whatnot, they had seen it all. But a requirement like Tang Rui's was truly unheard of. So, you mean you're looking for those diligent and obedient types, who won't go against their superiors, work dutifully, and bear whatever tasks are given. Exactly, that's the enterprise-level understanding. Tang Rui nodded, giving them credit. Alright, what about the salary aspect? What's the offer? Starting at 15K, gradually increasing based on experience, education, and honesty, up to a maximum of 30K. This salary wasn't low, but it wasn't extraordinarily high either. After all, it was for graduates with relevant laboratory experience. Of course, there were cheaper options. For instance, a graduate in materials science would be more affordable. A PhD from a top university wouldn't demand more than $20,000. The expensive roles were in the field of computer science, easily starting at $20,000, and if the job demanded overtime, even higher. Okay, what about the number and distribution of personnel? 20 researchers, 2 in materials, 1 in semiconductors, 1 in electronics, 6 in mechanics, and 10 in aircraft design. Then 1 for administration and human resources, 1 for finance, 1 for logistics and procurement, and 1 bus driver. That's it. If needed, I'll get in touch. Tang Rui shared his plan. According to your needs, our company estimates that we'll have all the personnel recruited by Wednesday. However, the individuals we recruit will go through preliminary screening, the final selection will depend on your side. We'll provide you with resumes and video interview materials for all the candidates. The staff member went into detail about the situation and the fees. Tang Rui had no issues with it and signed the contract. With Jillian's assistance, everything would be ready by next Friday. Exiting the office building, Tang Rui checked the time. It was nearly noon. He thought for a moment and realized he didn't have anything else to do at home. So, he called Li Shuyao and arranged to have lunch together. After sending her a message, Tang Rui drove to Li Shuyao's place to pick her up for lunch. This time, they didn't go for the usual big plate of chicken, they opted for seafood instead. After the meal, they went to the cinema to watch a thriller. Tang Rui had been looking forward to experiencing the supposed benefits that girlfriends gave after watching a thriller. But as it turned out, Li Shuyao calmly ate popcorn and watched the thriller without a hint of fear. Tang Rui didn't need to say anything more. He wasn't afraid of these things to begin with, especially not this thriller, whose plot was embarrassingly awkward. It couldn't even scare anyone. Even someone who was easily frightened would fall asleep watching it. As Tang Rui watched, he couldn't help but think to himself. He should have taken Li Shuyao home and watched an old-school horror film like Village of the Damned. These modern thrillers were just rubbish. After the movie ended, they strolled around for a while and then went their separate ways. In the evening, he followed his routine exercise regimen. That was how his day passed. Sunday arrived. Tang Rui didn't have much to do. Apart from picking up RHE materials, he stayed at home. However, he received 3 packages. All of them contained experimental equipment. The manufacturers were all from Shanghai, and the equipment was compact, so the delivery was swift. After receiving the equipment, Tang Rui started unpacking. This wasn't remote-controlled models. The packages contained many components. An RHE assembly required a high level of precision. So, he spent half a day working on it and hadn't completed a single piece. But he wasn't in a hurry, he could take his time. In the blink of an eye, another day went by. The next day, Tang Rui woke up, checked the time, and hurriedly went to freshen up. Then he changed into formal attire. He looked quite impressive. After grabbing a quick bite with 2 sandwiches to fill his stomach, he took the materials and drove to the city bureau. However, the morning traffic was heavy. By the time he reached the city bureau, the actors from several accompanying companies were already there. These actors, sent by their companies, eagerly approached Tang Rui when they saw him enter. "Hello, are you Mr. Tang, the CEO of Deep Red Technologies?" "Hello, Mr. Tang, I'm from Silent Bird Corporation. I'm here to learn today." "Hello, Mr. Tang." These actors understood that they weren't bidding, they were here to accompany Tang Rui through the procurement process. After all, a single company couldn't fulfill the entire procurement process. So, they came today to play the role of actors. Similarly, they also wanted to get to know Tang Rui. Considering the requirements set by the police, none of their companies could meet them. But Tang Rui managed to do so, which indicated a significant technological edge. They were here to understand the situation and see if there was a possibility of collaboration. If they could obtain technology transfer or licensing from him, it would be even better. Tang Rui found himself slightly annoyed by this group, but he had no choice but to put on a bold face and engage in business networking. Fortunately, it wasn't too long before the police representatives arrived. This time, the bureau chief didn't personally attend, they followed the usual procurement procedure. Chapter 48. 48, Calling the Fire Chief. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 48. Calling the Fire Chief. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, a series of procedures, leading to the conclusion of the process. Tang Rui successfully secured the order from the police. The people around him stood up and congratulated Tang Rui for winning the order. The atmosphere was very harmonious. Just as these manufacturers were about to approach Tang Rui to discuss potential cooperation, the bureau chief's secretary arrived. Mr. Tang, the bureau chief would like to see you. Alright, 1 foot 11 inches, go right away. Tang Rui nodded, bid farewell to those around him, and then left with the secretary. They arrived at the director's office. Tang Rui even wondered if there was something specific the director wanted to discuss with him. As it turned out, they only asked and the police could acquire the Skynet drone. Skynet drone. This was the name Tang Rui gave to the drone designed specifically for the police. Sir, the prototype of the drone has been constructed and is ready for inspection. The order for this drone was custom-made, not a standard purchase. Tang Rui needed to present the prototype first, and only after the police confirmed its quality could the production be finalized. It's already produced. Are there any funding issues? The director expressed surprise upon hearing this. There are no funding issues. I previously sold technology and earned some money from Xiaomi. That's good. Since the prototype is ready, we can proceed with it. As for me, I'm available on Wednesday. Does that work for you? The chief pondered for a moment and asked. Absolutely, I'll need the chief's assistance in arranging the airspace for the test flight. It's our responsibility. After all, it's the police who will perform the checks and approval. No need to worry about the airspace. Are there any specific requirements for the testing venue? There are no particular requirements as long as it's a flat concrete road. It's preferable if it's at least 50 meters long. Although the Skynet drone's take-off distance is only 30 meters, having extra space will be convenient. Alright, our police have such a location. Once everything is set, we'll inform you. At that point, you can bring the Skynet drone over. Very well, one have no issues with that. Is there anything else you need? No, everything is in order. Chief, our company has developed a new drone that hasn't been tested yet. After the test flight of the Skynet drone is completed, I'd like to use the venue and airspace for testing the new drone, while also shooting a promotional video. Oh. A new drone. How does it compare to the Skynet drone? Chief, you misunderstood. The two drones serve different purposes. The new drone is for firefighting. No problem. You can proceed with the testing after the inspection. Thank you, Chief. I have no further questions. Very well, then go ahead and prepare. Understood, Chief. I'll take my leave now. After expressing his thoughts, Tang Rui got up and exited the bureau chief's office. With the order secured, he also gained an opportunity for experimentation. Filled with joy, Tang Rui left the municipal bureau with a smile and drove home. Meanwhile, Tang Rui remained unaware that the bureau chief was facilitating business contacts for him, intending to deliver a pleasant surprise. If he had known, he probably would have suggested there was no need for such efforts. However, he was unaware of these events. At this moment, Tang Rui was communicating with the engineers at the factory. The equipment he purchased on Friday had arrived, including the laser-fired 3D printer valued at 800,000 yuan. "Boss, are you sure you want to place this computer here?" The factory engineer spoke with a concerned expression. "Is there a problem?" Tang Rui inquired, slightly puzzled. Shouldn't he be able to decide where to put equipment after purchasing it? He likened himself to a foreign giant, purchasing equipment without needing manufacturer approval. "No, boss, you misunderstood. I'm asking if there's an issue with the electrical circuit in this villa." The engineer clarified, seeing Tang Rui's confusion. "Circuit problems?" Tang Rui pondered. It was difficult to say, given the complexities of modern renovations. Nevertheless, it wasn't a major issue. He had a solution. If the circuit wasn't reliable, he would bypass it and use wireless charging technology. He possessed wireless power transmission technology with a range of 50 meters, making the circuit unnecessary. For the residential area's circuitry, there shouldn't be any issues. "It's fine. Just proceed with setting up the machine." Tang Rui waved his hand, signaling his approval. "All right." The factory engineer complied and began to set up the equipment. About an hour later, the factory engineers finished their testing and departed. Tang Rui then started tidying up the space. What was previously an empty basement now contained various pieces of equipment, with some smaller items still unopened. Once the discarded materials were dealt with, he returned to the basement and his workbench, beginning to craft wireless charging devices. Given the machine's power, he wasn't comfortable relying on the villa's circuitry. His solution was to bypass it and employ wireless charging technology, alleviating concerns about electrical wires. He switched on the workbench's dust removal system to keep the area clean, ensuring that waste from his work wouldn't clutter the surface. Tang Rui was content with this workbench, wishing he had it in the past to avoid the hassle of cleaning up after creating model airplanes. After a busy afternoon, he had assembled all the wireless charging equipment. As night fell, he changed clothes and awaited Li Shuyao's video call. Exercising had become his daily highlight, driven by both initial motivations and a genuine desire to maintain his fitness. Although he had ulterior motives initially, fitness was now his primary focus. This routine played out every morning, leaving him with an abundance of energy and a satisfying sense of well-being. Half an hour later, Li Shuyao's video call arrived. She remained as spirited as ever, and he appreciated it. Following warm-up exercises, they took to the treadmill for a run. Tang Rui had already reached a point where he could keep up with Li Shuyao's pace. He anticipated that before long, he would surpass her, given the inherent physical advantages men enjoyed. Chapter 49. 49. Thank you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 49. Thank you. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. I'm going to take a shower. You should rest early too and not stay up too late, Li Shuyao said to Tang Rui after finishing their workout. Got it. I'll tidy up the basement and then go to sleep. Alright, good night. Aha, they ended the video call. Tang Rui put down his phone and went to take a shower. Nowadays, after finishing his daily workout, he no longer felt as exhausted as before, like a dead dog. His body had adapted to this level of exercise, and he wasn't as tired anymore. After the shower, Tang Rui looked at the faintly outlined 8-pack abs and felt delighted. The exercise was paying off. These abs were on the verge of becoming visible. Maybe in about 2 weeks, those 8-pack abs would naturally show even without straining. Another 20 minutes of flight tonight, and these fire-fighting drones will be upgraded, Tang Rui thought, contemplating the experience of the 12 fire-fighting drones. The drones' experiences were all quite similar. He was confident that he could upgrade all of them tonight. Initially, he hadn't planned to upgrade them, but he reconsidered. Since he had a video shoot on Wednesday, the current appearance of the fire-fighting drones was a bit unsightly, mainly due to his inadequate welding skills. The overall design was fine, but the welding scars were too ugly. So, he decided to upgrade these fighting drones. There was no need to optimize their internal structure or reinforce their hardware. He only had to eliminate the flaws on their bodies. Otherwise, they would look like they had undergone some kind of surgical procedure in a shady clinic. The welding marks were simply too unsightly. An hour later, Tang Rui launched the drones again. Instead of flying all around, he hovered them over the villa. After flying for more than 20 minutes, he landed them gently by controlling the drones. Next was the step-by-step upgrading process. As he expected, the upgraded drones looked much better. It was like applying a beauty filter. From being ugly ducklings, they transformed into attractive drones. He was now struggling to find the welding points. Without careful inspection, those scars were practically invisible. After finishing the upgrades, Tang Rui put on his subconscious learning device and lay down to sleep. The next day, Tang Rui spent the whole day at home. Except for meals and a couple of trips to restaurants, he stayed in the basement, continuing to dismantle the previous 3D scanning equipment. During this time, he received a call from the secretary of the bureau chief, informing him of the acceptance inspection tomorrow and providing details about the location. After receiving the notification, Tang Rui immediately called Brother Zhang, requesting his help in delivering the Skynet drones to the police acceptance location tomorrow. Zhang Zidong readily agreed without hesitation. It was no big deal for him. With tomorrow's arrangement settled, Tang Rui continued to work on the disassembly and assembly tasks without any disturbance. And just like that, the day quickly passed. Wednesday arrived. Tang Rui, dressed neatly, arrived at a special police training ground in Qixia district. This was the place where the police would conduct the acceptance inspection for the drones. After all, the location was spacious enough and had no nearby buildings. The airspace had also been properly arranged. But when he arrived, the bureau chief hadn't shown up yet. However, Brother Zhang had sent personnel to deliver the Skynet drones, and they were already there. They weren't alone. Apart from the driver, 3 engineers accompanied them. When Tang Rui approached them to inquire, he learned that they were sent by Brother Zhang to assist him. It was well arranged, indeed. Tang Rui quickly dialed Brother Zhang's number on his phone. Since they had done so much, not even making a phone call would be a sign of a problem. After a brief chat and expressions of gratitude, Tang Rui ended the call. After all, today was not a time for casual conversation. With the assistance of the engineers, the Skynet drones were placed on the cement road and subjected to various tests. Before long, the bureau chief, along with some department heads from the provincial government, arrived at the training base. When Tang Rui approached, the bureau chief surprised him. "Mr. Tang, this is the head of our Jinling Fire Department. You can call him Director Zhou. You're here to test the fighting drones, so perform well." The bureau chief introduced Director Zhou with a smile. Tang Rui felt his scalp tingle. This surprise came too suddenly, catching him off guard. "Hello, Director Zhou. Thank you for coming. You shouldn't thank me, you should thank Director Chen. He spoke highly of you. Make sure to give a good demonstration later and not disappoint him." "Thank you, Director Chen. No need for thanks. This can also be considered your contribution to our police force. It's our support to you." After brief conversation, Tang Rui led everyone to the drones and began to introduce them. The Skynet drone is a versatile unmanned aircraft designed specifically for urban patrols, intelligent monitoring, and tracking criminals for law enforcement agencies. The entire drone, from design to production, is developed by our company, Deep Red Intelligence Technology, and manufactured by the aerospace industry Jinling Light Aircraft Power Corporation. It's a domestically produced system with world-leading capabilities, Tang Rui started explaining, relying on the script provided by the company. He was simply reading it aloud. Soon, the leaders had finished inspecting the Skynet drones, and Tang Rui's presentation had almost covered all the key points. Everyone then entered a nearby room to watch a live demonstration. The laptops were already set up, and once the leaders were seated, Tang Rui connected to the projector and began his presentation. The operation of the Skynet drone is simple, with high levels of automation. It doesn't require special runways for takeoff and landing and can even take off from a dirt road in emergencies. While speaking, Tang Rui controlled the drone to take off. Once in the air, he activated the optical camera and began taking photos of the ground. The Skynet drone is equipped with a high-powered zoom camera, capable of capturing clear images from 5,000 meters in the air, with millimeter-level recognition accuracy. Additionally, we've loaded it with a wanted criminal list and data in its internal database. When patrolling, if the drone's facial recognition system detects a wanted criminal, it will immediately sound an alarm and track the criminal for photography. Tang Rui continued to control the drone while emphasizing the power of the optical system. He didn't have much of a choice. This was the main selling point. If he didn't boast about it, what else could he boast about? We can also perform real-time data entry into the database. For instance, Tang Rui suddenly looked at the bureau chief's secretary. Would you mind cooperating? Of course. Without hesitation, the secretary walked over. Tang Rui used his phone to take a photo of him, quickly created a profile, and uploaded it to the database. Could you step outside the building for a few steps? Sure, I'll go outside now. Thank you, you're a big help. After the secretary left, Tang Rui controlled the drone to enter patrol mode. Ladies and gentlemen, currently, Skynet is on automatic patrol. He lifted his hands from the computer, letting the system run automatically. Suddenly, a red marker appeared on the screen. 2 photos followed, showing the picture he took with his phone and the one the drone captured. Simultaneously, the profile he had just created was displayed on the screen. Applause filled the room. Everyone was satisfied with the Skynet drone's performance, especially its facial recognition capabilities. Once a criminal was identified, there was no escape. It was much more convenient than the police constantly monitoring suspects. It could save a lot of manpower. Tang Rui continued to showcase other features of the Skynet drone, although compared to the optical system, these features were relatively average. However, they were still good. At the very least, the police didn't think the pricing of the Skynet drone was too high. Chapter 50. 50. Fire, Extinguishing Shockwave. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 50. Fire, Extinguishing Shockwave. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. President Tang, when can the Skynet drones be delivered? The person in charge of the SWAT team asked. Very soon, we can deliver them all before the end of the month, replied Tang Rui when asked by Senior Zhang yesterday. With just these few drones, 10 days were enough. Molds and necessary materials were already available, and the equipment was directly purchased. It was just that the final assembly took a lot of time, but this wasn't a fighter jet. There weren't that many parts. 10 days were enough. Very good. We are very satisfied with this Skynet drone, said the director finally with certainty. As long as the leader is satisfied, Tang Rui smiled. If the leader wasn't satisfied with this, then they might have to provide a more military-oriented set to the police, but that would come at a higher cost. At this point, the police inspection was considered successful. Afterward, he would finalize the order and the police would transfer the funds. Tang Rui controlled the Skynet drone, landing it slowly on the cement road. Just as everyone stood up and was about to leave, the director suddenly spoke. Isn't President Tang going to test the fire drone? Yes, but since it's not urgent, one didn't want to waste the leader's time. Tang Rui felt annoyed. Naturally, the topic of fire drones had come up. Who would have thought that during the police inspection of the Skynet drones, they would also involve the head of the fire department? It won't cause any delays. Chief Zhou is here as well. Please get the fire drone ready for Chief Zhou to review. The chief looked at Tang Rui, who was standing there looking somewhat bewildered, with a hint of annoyance. I've already arranged for the fire department's representative. Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and demonstrate the fire drones. Tang Rui took a deep breath. He glanced at Chief Zhou and gritted his teeth. All right, I'll go and prepare it now. What else could he do? He was also feeling a sense of despair. Tang Rui walked out of the room, headed to the trunk of the car, and retrieved the fire drone launcher. He had just finished moving the equipment when a question was posed at the SWAT training base. When are you going to ignite the fire? Fire? What fire? Tang Rui looked at the SWAT trainee in front of him, baffled. Aren't you going to demonstrate the fire drone? You need to showcase its firefighting capabilities. If it can't show its extinguishing effect, the fire department won't consider purchasing it. Don't worry, the fire won't be significant. Tang Rui felt a twinge of discomfort in his temples. This was getting overly complicated. But there was another issue. How was he supposed to put out the fire? Thank you. We can proceed with the fire demonstration now. Tang Rui steeled himself and stated. All right. After the SWAT trainee left, Tang Rui looked up at the sun overhead and felt a sudden chill. Next up, he had to present the fire drones in front of the Jinling police chief, provincial leaders, and the head of the fire department. It was an incredibly nerve-wracking prospect. Whoosh! At that moment, 7 or 8 bonfires were ignited on the sandy training ground. The person responsible for starting the fires gestured to Tang Rui from a distance. Good luck. Tang Rui felt utterly helpless, his smile more strained than genuine. He turned around and headed back to his designated area. All right. The group of high-ranking officials hadn't left yet. They were all waiting for the fire drone demonstration. After all, this wasn't something they dealt with regularly, and they had time to spare today. Watching the fire drones in action was also a valuable opportunity. Esteemed leaders, the fire drones are ready. This launcher is designed for the fire drone, Tang Rui said before closing his eyes and pressing the launch button. Whoosh whoosh. 12 firefighter drones quickly ascended into the air. The director's brow furrowed as he observed the fire drone launch. This was different from his expectations. In his understanding, fire drones shouldn't be large in size. They should carry substantial amounts of firefighting agents to extinguish fires. Yet, the firefighter drone by Tang Rui. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't appear capable of carrying significant firefighting agents. However, he didn't voice his doubts. After all, he wasn't an expert in the field, so he continued to watch attentively. As Tang Rui saw the firefighting drones take off, his mind raced to come up with an explanation. Regardless of the situation, he needed to give a plausible account. The unique feature of our fire drones is that they can take off in multiples simultaneously without requiring special handling. Equipped with advanced AL programming, they can autonomously hover in the air until they receive commands. Tang Rui hurriedly improvised, each of these fire drones can carry up to 5 kilograms of firefighting agents. Furthermore, 4 of them can carry a total of 8 kilograms. Listening to Tang Rui's explanations, Bureau Chief Zhou furrowed his brows even more. For firefighting, what could 5 kilograms of extinguishing agents do? Even 8 kilograms wouldn't suffice. This was far from meeting their department's minimum requirements. These fire drones come with a target-seeking system that can automatically locate areas of intense fires. Tang Rui said, tapping a key on his keyboard. Swoosh. The scene on the display screen immediately changed. The police academy hidden beneath the training facility and trees was instantly pinpointed. Cough cough. Tang Rui quickly adjusted the targeting, changing it from the police academy to the bonfires on the ground. Apologies for the mix-up earlier. That was the search and rescue lock mode, designed to locate survivors trapped in fires. After fixing the target onto the bonfire, Tang Rui clarified awkwardly. President Tang, how does this search and rescue mode locate targets? Bureau Chief Zhou inquired. The search and rescue mode was promising, just what the fire department needed. We utilize an infrared detection system, Tang Rui promptly responded. Infrared. Using infrared for firefighting. Was it reliable? Bureau Chief Zhou felt puzzled. This was quite unconventional. Indeed. In that case, could you demonstrate the firefighting capability of this fire drone? Bureau Chief Zhou asked again. Well. I only planned to perform a test today, so one didn't load the firefighting agent into the drone system. Tang Rui spread his hands helplessly, explaining, it's not a problem. Could you describe the firefighting effect? Yes, the specific firefighting impact. When 5 kilograms of firefighting agents are released into the air, they should be able to subdue a fire within a 20-meter radius. Not extinguish, but suppress the flames. No, it's actually extinguishing the fire. Everyone was perplexed. The phrasing felt awkward. 20 meters. What type of firefighting agent did you employ to achieve such an effect? Bureau Chief Zhou's eyes lit up. Though it seemed improbable, the effect was remarkable. Could it be a novel firefighting agent? The firefighting agent we used. It's a new firefighting method developed by our company. Tang Rui felt as if he were fumbling through an explanation. How could he possibly know about this new firefighting agent? A unique firefighting method. Could you elaborate? Shockwaves. Tang Rui hesitated, finally uttering the words. Bureau Chief Zhou was puzzled once again. Extinguishing fires with shockwaves. He'd heard of that before, but it required specialized equipment. Given the size of these fire drones, they couldn't possibly carry such equipment. Furthermore, didn't Tang Rui just mention that each drone carried 5 kilograms of firefighting agents? How had it suddenly turned into specialized equipment?